In this video, we're going to look at our NIM connector for Premiere.
Okay, now we're in Premiere and we're looking at the timeline, and we've got a sequence already existing on our timeline. We could step through our shots here. This was for a spot for Marvel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we've got our media, everything standard. Well, under Window, Extensions, NIM, we now have a NIM connector, and you log directly into the connector, similar to the way you log into NIM. And we've got three options at the top. We've got our project, and this is where you manage your Premiere project versions. We've got media, and here we can export, edit for review, rename shots, export shots, and import elements. And then we also have review, and we'll get to that in a bit. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and save this version into one of my NIM jobs. All of the data for NIM is saved with the project. So as you open a project, because as you know, if you open Premiere, it forces you to load an existing file. It'll already know exactly where it came from. So if you had one already, you could simply go in and just version up and say, this is my full length edit. And it's going to go ahead and add that to NIM. So if I was switching between versions and things like that, I could just go in here and say, open, go back to like our original version, say open project, and it'll open that project for you. If I go ahead and close that one, I don't need to save. So I'm back in here, and again, as I version, it'll version up correctly. So if I did want to save this into an existing show, one, it's going to remember the last place you were at. Use the job. So I've got storage, pick my show, pick my task. Don't need to give it a base name. I'm going to say this is my full edit. So that's been saved and logged in as version 1. Again, if we wanted to just go ahead and version, we can go and just click version up and say, I made some changes. And that's going to go ahead and get logged into NIM as well. So now let's say we want to go ahead and export this timeline to NIM for review. So we go to Media and go Export, Edit for Review. And now we've got a couple of options. The first thing is export to. Where do I want to do this? Now that we have review in several places, we can export it to our dashboard, our job, show, shot, or task. Let's just do this one to our dashboard. We can give it a name, description, again, the type, which can get pulled from your settings directly in NIM. We can set what our status is. We can say, hey, this one's ready for posting. And again, we can also include keywords. We've got our export presets. So we are including 3 default presets, but you can also choose a custom preset. Export range, entire sequence, in and out markers, or work area. Export markers. What that's going to do is it's going to take any of your markers on your timeline and create them as notes on the review item inside NIM. So let's go ahead and create a couple markers here. I'll add one there. One here, and one here. So if I go to my markers, say, this is my first note, this is my second note, and my third. Okay. Scratch disk. So this is basically where this is going to get written out to, right? So we could say, do I want to do the same as project? I can use my documents. I could choose a custom location to use as a scratch disk. And do I want to keep this render? Because essentially what this does is it uses Media Encoder to write out the H.264 that gets uploaded direct to NIM. I can keep that intermediary render, or I can choose to delete it. In this case, I'm going to choose to delete it. And here I'm going to go ahead and choose Export Edit so we could see the render progress. Once the render is complete, it's going to get uploaded direct to NIM, and we'll be able to see the upload progress here. And once that is done, we'll be able to click on the View button, and it'll take us direct to review inside of Premiere. And now that it's done, I can choose View. And now we're inside our NIM Review Tools. And I can play our video, and here's our edit. And then here's our notes directly taken from our markers. I can reply to any of these notes, as normal inside NIM. Basically all the standard tools. Checking those off, whiteboarding, everything is available to you direct from within the connector. Again, all of our settings were carried over. Can modify those as needed. If I close this panel, we've got our full review tools in here, so I can go ahead and use all of my existing filters. I can close out my bins. Basically, anything you can do directly inside of NIM, you can do inside Premiere. Now going back to media, let's say we wanted to conform these shots and kick them out to post and log them inside of NIM. Well, the first thing is you can see this was all chopped up from QuickTime. We need to go ahead and name all of our shots. Well, we have a quick rename tool that'll allow you to go in and put out a name, MAOS. We're going to go ahead and have padding of 3. Let's do padding of 4. And you can see the preview here. We're going to start go by 10 and start at 100. Layers. So layers basically is asking, do you have stacked items on your timeline? Well, you have the option to match those names by the first frame. So if, for example, if this item was up here and overlapping first frame, these would both become shot 1. You could do it by the last frame, which means these would both become shot 2. And that way what's going to happen is NIM's going to write the elements out when we export them to the same shot. So that way you're consolidating your media into overlapping sections. But for now, let's go ahead and we'll rename all of our shots. And you can see here they've been renamed. So we've got 100, 110, 120, 130, and so on. Now we're going to move on to exporting our shots. So the first thing is we're going to choose the job we're going to export it to, and we are going to choose the show. Now I could go ahead and just do that, and that's going to create shots in NIM, and I don't need to transcode any media. I don't need to write anything out. But you have the option to here. So I'm going to say, yep, I do want to transcode. And the first thing it asks is, well, where do you want to transcode these items to? So we can choose folders based off of our NIM project structure. So we've got plates, renders, and comps. Or I could choose a custom folder to write this out to. The server, I'm going to choose the server I want to put it on. And then we've got our presets, so DPX, JPEGs, PNGs. I'll just choose PNGs for now. And then we have our element type. And the element type is basically your NIM element type. So I'm going to be writing out plates. Element name, in here right now is shot name. We have additional items for track name. We have additional keywords for track name, or also sequence name. So if you wanted to, probably something more standard would be sequence name, track name, shot name. If we wanted to do that. For now, since I don't have anything overlapping, I'm just going to give them the shot name. Length, we could do to the cut or to the clip, which will basically, to the clip is going to do the entire source media. In my case, I actually just want to do to the cut, and I can also define how many handles I have. Our last option is to export AE. Well, what that's going to do is going to export an Apex file, which is basically an After Effects XML file that's going to have the source media already in it. So that way users can open those directly from the NIM connector inside After Effects, start working, creating compositions, render them to deadline, and import them direct back to Premiere. So we're going to look at our task type, and this is basically for the file that we're writing out. It's for our After Effects project. And what is our source going to be? Is it going to be our transcoded media or our timeline media? Well, we're going to point it to the newly transcoded media. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit export shots. First thing it's going to do, it's going to step through all of our shots and start creating those in NIM, exporting icons along the way. Again, we'll speed up this process for the sake of the video. We can see now that all of our shots have been added to NIM, and they've been uploaded, and they are in the process of being transcoded. So let's go over to NIM real quick. We'll take a look. So I'm going to click on sequence. Here's all of our shots that were generated. If I step into one of these and look at elements, I can see here's our first log element direct within our project structure and our files. Here's our Apex file that we wrote out. Again, this is going to be the starting point for our After Effects comps. And we can see that last one is kicking in now right there. So before we import elements, let's go ahead and open up After Effects, bring in that Apex file, and actually render, log those elements back into NIM, and then we'll do an import. Okay, so now let's go over to After Effects and we'll open our file. So I'm going to choose Open from the NIM Connector. I'm going to choose my job, choose my first shot. And here's our file saved out of Premiere. I'm going to go ahead and hit Open. Here's the media we just transcoded. And I dropped that onto a render queue, but I actually want to look at our sequence. So here's our item here. And just so we can see what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and add an effect to that. Just to make it real obvious, we'll go Colorama. Now if I go back to my render queue, I'll set this up. I'm actually going to write out a PNG sequence. I'll choose where that's going to go. So I'm going to save this, and so I'm going to choose Save As. And I'm going to save it into our existing version stream. Say added Colorama. That is saved. And now I'm going to go ahead and send this to deadline. So this all looks good. And I'm going to select our pipeline tool so I can go ahead and log this into NIM. I'm going to go over to our project management tab, say create new version. I'm going to do a simple movie upload. I'm going to refresh my information here. It's going to grab the latest information from the scene. I want to actually add a task. So let's do this. So look at our list here. I'll add a NIM task. We'll add a comp task. And I'll assign myself to that. And we'll say that's in progress. So now I've selected my NIM task. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to hit Submit. Okay, now that's complete. We can look at NIM. We can see here, we've got our newly rendered QuickTime. If we look at the shots themselves and we look at the elements, we can see that we've got a comp that's been uploaded. Now going over to import elements, we can choose our job, our show, our destination could be the project root or selected bin. Element type, we're going to choose comps because that's what we wrote out of After Effects. We have the option to choose to only return the latest element or all the elements. I'll say give me all of them, as well as only published items. I'm going to choose no for that as well. Now, when I click Import Elements, Premiere is going to go ahead and import anything that it finds in NIM that is logged as an element of this element type. It's going to make a folder for each shot, as well as here's the render that we wrote out at deadline. And we can see here the item that we colorized in After Effects. Again, this is all linked by the fact that those renders are logged as elements on those shots.
Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at support@nim-labs.com. Thank you.